porridge, I've got quinoa flakes here. So I've got half a cup of quinoa flakes and 1 cup of rice milk. Now, if you're looking for a dairy and soy milk alternative, check out our milk episode because there's heaps of options there. So we're just going to give that a quick stir and then we're going to put the heat on. So we need to bring it to the boil, and then once it's boiling, let it boil for about 1 minute and then it's cooked. The thing I love about porridge is not so much that it's my favourite breakfast cereal, it's just that it's an excellent way to get a serve of fruit in the day. If you're not a big fruit snacker, this will solve all those problems. So I've just cored the apple, providing you wash it. So if it's not organic, you're trying to get as much of the yucky stuff off the outside as possible. You get to keep the goodness of the skin. I've got organic apples, so I've just washed them and cored them. And you don't have to chop them too small. It's going to depend on the strength of your stick blender. I mean, I've got a pretty middle of the range stick blender, so this is fine. So the trick to making this raw apple puree work is you need a little bit of water to help it get moving. You could use water, you could use milk, or alternatively you could use some of your porridge blend. You just need a little bit of moistness to help blend it all up and puree it. Otherwise it's just too hard and it'll come out very crunchy. So I'm just going to pour a little bit. That's about enough. And then you blend. And that's how easy it is. The great thing about this is it's going to add some colour as well as sweetness, meaning you add less sweetener. So there you have it. You can add some cinnamon to that. Now, if you're not into apples, you might want to puree banana. Banana purees up really easily and it goes really nicely, again, with maple syrup and cinnamon. Alternatively, when peaches are in season, they're absolutely beautiful to have fresh peaches with your porridge. And I just have those whole because they're just lovely whole. But this is it. This is the easiest way to add fruit to your day without really thinking about it. One thing I really wanted to achieve with this muesli bar was a crunch, because I like crunchy muesli bars. So I'll show you how I achieved that in a second. So to get started, the base of this muesli bar is ground medjool dates with lentils. The dates are going to provide the sweetness and the stickiness, but the lentils are going to provide a bit more bulk, and also they're an excellent source of protein. So we're going to blend this all together until we make a nice paste, and then we're going to add the other ingredients in. Now, a handy tip with the dates is firstly soak them for about an hour before you're going to use them. The water's going to retain some of that sweetness, and we're going to use a tablespoon of that water in the blender just to help it blend everything together. And the other handy tip is make sure you pitted your dates, but also chop them before you put them in the blender, so that way it's going to blend a lot better. Tablespoon of date water and go, blend. Okay, so this is perfect consistency. There are a few pieces still in there which will be really nice when you bite into the bar, but mostly it's pureed. And the good thing about the puree bits is the sweetness is just going to subtly carry through the whole bar. Okay, so now we're ready to mix it all together. The other sweetness that I've got in the muesli bars are dried figs. I absolutely love these. They're a beautiful source of minerals and fibre, and they're just sweet and delicious. So they're going to go really nice and very subtle, and it's going to really nicely match the flavour of the dates. So you just chop them roughly. The smaller the piece, the more likely you are to get a little bit of fig in each bite. So dates for sweetness, rice flakes for that oaty look and to also give it a bit more body. Mixed spice and the secret crunchy ingredient. Here it is. It's activated bikinis. It's buckwheat. The name is misleading, but is actually not related to the wheat family at all. And so with these bikinis, they have been soaked to be activated to release the nutrients and to make the minerals in there more bioavailable for the body. And then they've actually been dehydrated again, so they're still crunchy. So you could do this yourself if you had a dehydrator. But if you didn't, you'd just be soaking them and then they wouldn't be quite as crunchy in the muesli bar. So that's why I've gone for the activated bacchini, and these ones in particular have also had extra flavours caramelised with them. So I found this is just easiest to mix with bare hands. Okay, so this is enough to make 4 large muesli bars. So I've just formed it together. It can be quite sticky, so make sure you get a tray and your greaseproof paper set up before, and then just form them with your hands. Now if you find they're a bit sticky and a bit messy, just wet your hands with water first, and that'll help you form the bar better. So we're going to pop them in a fan forced oven at 180 degrees Celsius for 25 minutes. And there we have it, crunchy muesli bars fresh out of the oven. And I've achieved that crunch without adding any nuts, and they're gluten-free too. They make a fantastic snack in the kids' lunchbox. My egg alternative today, I'm going to be using chickpeas as the base. Chickpeas are high in plant-based protein, they're also high in fibre, and unlike egg, they don't have any cholesterol, so it's really good for people who are avoiding egg for health reasons, or for people who just can't eat egg for any other reasons. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add some flavouring. I've got some turmeric for some yellow colour, and some curry powder, who doesn't love the smell of that, and mayonnaise. If you'd like some great egg-free mayonnaise recipes, don't forget to check out the mayonnaise episode. This is the one that I made in that episode, which is the chia and safflower. It's pretty yummy. Okay, so I've got my trusty potato masher, and I'm just going to start mashing the chickpeas. Okay, so a texture like that is fine. If you want it smoother, that's fine. If you're doing it for children and sometimes you want to mask the shape, or they don't like chewing, you could certainly keep mashing. But I find a texture like that is great because it still picks up all the flavours, and also when you spread it on your sandwich or cracker or however you're going to have it, it has a little bit of height in it as well, so it doesn't feel like you're just having bread on bread. Okay, so let's add the other stuff. So you can add as much mayonnaise or as little mayonnaise as you like. Remember, it's a condiment, it's not the main course. So I'm only going to add 2 tablespoons to this much chickpeas. I've got about a can of chickpeas there because it's less fatty than a regular mayonnaise, and at least you're getting some of the omega-3s in the chia. You could probably add a little tiny bit more if you wanted to, so I will. And now I'm just going to add the flavours in. So I've got quite a bit of curry here, and some turmeric just to help lighten the colour a little bit. And I'm just going to stir. And the final touch is you can add a squeeze of lime if you like, just a little bit more of a fresher taste. And now it's ready to eat. And speaking of that, it's lunchtime, so I'm going to go make some lunch.
Today I'm going to make a spicy meatless sausage. The bulk of these sausages are lentils. I have rinsed them, drained them, and then mashed them with a potato masher. The rest of the ingredients is some garlic and sliced onion, nutritional yeast, Worcestershire sauce, some spices that I have dry roasted, some brown rice flour, tomato paste, and mushrooms. To start, I'm going to crush and chop my garlic cloves. I'm going to add these to a pan with some olive oil. To the garlic, I'm going to add some chopped onion. And to our onions and garlic, some mushrooms. And we'll saute these down. Takes 3 or 4 minutes. To our lentils, we'll add the rest of the ingredients while our mushrooms are cooking down. I'm going to add the sauce, nutritional yeast, our dry roasted spices, our brown rice flour, and tomato paste. This just needs to be combined together. If it's a little bit dry, it could be due to the brown rice flour. It takes a lot of moisture, so just add a little bit of water at a time if you need to. This is a good consistency, a little moist, but easy to mould. This is done. We'll take it off the heat and put it somewhere to cool down, because we need it completely cold before we add it to our other ingredients that we've just prepared. So here it is. Here's our onion and mushroom and garlic that's been sauteed. And we're going to add this to our ingredients that we prepared. And now to make sausages. I'm going to grab a small amount of the mixture, and you can shape them whatever way you like. To further the cooking process, we steam them for about 20 minutes. So I'm just going to bring the steamer over that I prepared earlier. Boiling water underneath, the steamer and a tinfoil lining. And we're going to place the sausages in here and steam them for roughly 20 minutes. So these have been in now for 20 minutes. So it's time to take them out. And now we'll pop them in the fridge. And when they're cool, we'll roll them in some polenta. The polenta will give the sausages a nice golden look and a real crunch when you bite into it after it's been on the barbecue.
A really simple tomato sauce. So you put in your tomato base. So you could be using fresh tomatoes that you've pureed through a mullet yourself. I see a bolognese sauce as an opportunity to put lots of vegetables in. So I'm adding lots of zucchini, lots of mushroom, lots of capsicum for a bit more sweetness, basil and some olive oil here. And I've also got a little bit of rapadura sugar. And rapadura sugar is basically sugarcane juice, which is dried. If you want a little bit of protein or a little bit of meatiness in your sauce, you've got a whole lot of options. The easiest option is to add red kidney beans. The other things you could use would be various grains, so you could blend up some brown rice which has been cooked. You could use lentils, so there's a whole lot of options. So have a look, have a play and see what suits your taste buds. Okay, so pop that on the stove, give it a good stir, put the lid on and leave it on for at least an hour and a half. Okay, so the key thing I'm really showing you today is how to make a creamy bechamel sauce when you're not using butter or flour, which is the two main ingredients of a bechamel sauce. Okay, so for the fatty base, I'm just using olive oil instead of butter. I'm going to be using a gluten-free flour. There are lots of alternatives on the market. I like this one because it's free of all the foods that I'm avoiding in this recipe for you. I'm going to be using rice milk. Okay, so come over to the stovetop with me and we'll get the sauce going. Okay, so you really want your sauce beginning to look like that. If it goes all dry and clumpy, then you need to start again, because if you start adding your milk to that, you're just going to get lots of lumps. Stir this continuously. Okay, so I've taken it off the heat while we add the milk. I've got about 500 mils here. In order to get the milk really combining with your paste that you've just made, you need to add it slowly and you need to keep stirring. So 50 mils at a time to begin with until it's all blended in. And then you add another 50 mils. You don't want any lumps. Now's the time to get rid of lumps and to make it smooth. Okay, so you need to be stirring continuously until it comes to the boil, and then let it simmer for 3 minutes, again stirring continuously through that time. Once you've done that, then you can take it off the heat. Okay, we're about to assemble the lasagna. Now my handy hint here is the more vegetables you can pack into your sauce, the better, because it will give you some more space in between your pasta sheets. So today, because I'm avoiding gluten, soy, dairy and egg, we wanted to make sure that we found a pasta which does avoid all of that. So I've been using the all grain ones because they're actually free of all those ingredients, and these particular ones are made of rice and corn.
First of all, we're just going to pour some of the sauce on the bottom of the dish. If you're using lasagna sheets like this, make sure you're packing them in nice and tightly, because that will give your final lasagna a lot more structure. And then some more of the sauce, followed by a drizzle of the bechamel style sauce. Now just repeat this process until you've used up all of your ingredients. And I like to leave a generous amount of the bechamel style sauce to put on top, because then it gives your lasagna a more creamier look and taste.
Okay, so now it's time to pop it in the oven for 50 minutes. I'm going to keep it covered with foil for about half an hour to 40 minutes, and then I'm going to take the foil off so that the top can brown. Okay, so here's your almost everything free lasagna. So we're just going to let it stand, and then it's time to serve and eat. Okay, so first I'm going to line my springform tin. This is a 20 centimetre springform tin. So I'm going to line it with baking paper, and I've drawn in these little tabs. The tabs stop it being so bulky, because I always find springform tins don't want to shut when I've got a whole piece of baking paper on there. For the base, I'm replacing the butter with coconut oil. At room temperature, it's actually a solid. In order to mix things together, we obviously need it in the liquid form, so I've just sat the amount that I need in hot water, and it thaws pretty quick. And once it sets, it's going to solidify, and that will help replace the butter and be our base. And in the actual filling section, that's going to set and replace the need for a gelatin or some other setting agent. Okay, so to make the base, what we need is 2 cups of biscuits. This is a handy little hint that helps avoid the use of a food processor if you don't have one. So just get a little rolling pin and crumble your biscuits. For the really big bits, I just use the base. And now I'm going to add some lemon zest. That's the zest from about 1.5 lemons. You could add more if you like it really lemony, or you could add less. So I'm just going to blend that a little bit with a fork, and then I'm going to add 3/4 cup of coconut oil. Stir all of that in together. Just really want it to get moist so that it'll all harden up together and we won't have dry patches. So I'm just going to pour that into the springform tray. Pat that down so I have a consistent layer all the way around the bottom. Okay, so that's all ready. I'm just going to pop that in the fridge so it can begin to set while we make the filling. For the recipe, we need 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. You could use more or less. We like it lemony, so I add 2 lemons. Okay, so for the sweeteners, I'm going to use a natural sweetener today. Rice malt syrup is actually extracted from rice, and it's a low GI sweetener for people who are concerned about that. Pick a coconut cream which is as natural as possible. Scoop out the cream bit from the top. So I'm going to now add 1 cup of coconut oil. Okay, I'm going to mix that a little bit first. Now I'm adding the sweetener in. Okay, so now I'm adding the lemon juice. I'll add the vanilla and just blend it all together. Okay, so the base is nice and set. You can see that the coconut oil has started to solidify and it's holding all the biscuit base together. So I'm just going to pour the cake filling in on top of the base now. Just pat it out to make sure that it's actually all level. And we're going to pop that in the freezer just to help it start to set really quick, and then we'll put it in the fridge. Okay, so now we're going to make the topping. So basically we've got 2 cups of frozen berries here. I'm going to transfer just a little bit of that mix into the food processor. I'm going to use the dates. There's 8 medjool dates there, and I've pipped them and chopped them up just because I find it helps them blend better. Okay, so I'm just going to put the blender on to mix that together, and then I'll add the remaining berries in at the last. Thaw the berries first. If the berries are still frozen, they're going to freeze the dates, and it's going to be very, very difficult to actually blend it up and make the nice slurry to go on top of the cake. So I'm just going to add the rest of the berries and blend one more time. Okay, so the longer you leave the cake in the freezer while you're preparing the topping, the more set it'll be when you come to put the topping on top. So I'm just going to pour this on top. Okay, so you want to just spread that all around the tin so that you're covering the filling, and then pop it in the freezer. Okay, so the moment of truth, and voila! If you're in a really hot climate, I would serve it straight from the freezer and not keep it out too long because the coconut oil will melt, as you saw when we were melting it to mix it all together. This is how you can make a cheesecake without dairy, without soy, without gluten, without eggs, without gelatin, and the only nut that I've used is coconut. It wasn't that hard, it didn't take that long, and it tastes pretty nice.